Hello, my name is Pavel Payano, and we are here at El Taller shooting the Common Sage's first episode of Real Talk. The Common Sage is an initiative that seeks to create a platform where individuals in this city can promote the positive news and ideas that happen here, and also showcase the amazing talent that we have in this community. In our first edition, we're going to be interviewing 4 of the Lawrence Mayoral Candidates and their supporters, so check it out. I'm sitting here with City Councilor Dan Rivera. He's a candidate for mayor. He's got his bachelor's at UMass Amherst, my alma mater, getting an MBA at Suffolk University. I'm actually going to Suffolk myself, Suffolk Law School, and he's a veteran. So thank you for being here, Dan.
Thanks, I'm really excited to be here.
For those of you that might not know you, that see you like in the newspaper, can you talk to us a little bit about like what inspired you to run for mayor? And I know that your campaign has recently been talking about the 7 R's. If maybe you can also talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, for me, it's essential to have good government because I'm a product of good government. I'm a kid from Lawrence. I grew up in public housing. I was able to go to college on the Jack Bill. I was able to stay in college on Stafford loans and Pell grants. Worked in public housing after I got out of high school. Was able to go to get my MBA, tuition reimbursement from the Housing Authority. So I'm a product of what real good government can do, and I feel, especially being a Lawrence kid, I have a sense of pride for our community. And I just got to a point where I thought, we work so hard to make this city a better place, to build a business here. We work so hard to raise our kids here, and have a home here with our families, so many young families and old families. And we really need a mayor that can stand behind us and focus on the things that are going to make our lives a little bit better. And those things are really basic. In the 7 R's, it's a set of guiding principles. We're going to respond to the needs of every citizen. Really basic. We're going to restore the pride that people have in our city. Things like rebuild our public safety department. Right now, we only have 116 police officers. We really should have 155 plus police officers in the force. So things like renew our commitment to schools and students. And that's a really big part of it because I think there's a set of 3 big initiatives that if you pull them together, they're kind of connected. And renewing our commitment is one of those things. We're going to refocus our efforts on bringing jobs and industry to Lawrence because it's really important to make sure that people are working. And lastly, we're going to regain the trust of our city's residents. I want them to trust the city, that they're going to do the services that they provide, and we want to make sure that when they think about government, that they think my city government is working for me and not against me, and not looking to hurt. That's a big part. So we got to regain that trust we have now. And lastly, this is important because we have a statewide reputation. So I'm going to rebuild our reputation statewide, making sure that people, stakeholders, people with resources want to come to Lawrence and make sure that they want to invest in Lawrence and bring jobs and bring nonprofit dollars and really help us get back to that great city that we were.
I think 2 of the last things you mentioned, reputation and trust inside the city, they seem to go hand in hand. You have a city that, for decades has been divided, north-south, Anglo-Latino. Now you have different political camps kind of like turning against each other. So in your administration, day 1, how do you bring everybody together?
Listen, I'm a big tent guy. I don't think I'm the smartest guy. Definitely not the most best looking one. So I gotta really depend on people coming together for us to have success. And government is not a place to settle scores. It's just not one of those places to settle scores or whatever, just to right wrongs. Government is a place to provide good services to people. So if you're interested in making Lawrence a better place, which is our motto, making Lawrence better, if that's what you want to do, I'm all in. But there's a level of anger we got to get through. People got to vent and get out their frustration with things that have happened recently and in the past. And we're going to let people do that. And I think that's a really important process to get through. I go to coffees and people start off very angry about this current situation. And then when we talk about the opportunities we have, they just, the anger just melts away. I'm angry too, trust me, that's why I'm running for mayor. I'm a taxpayer, I grew up in the city, and I can't stand, the current reputation we have. So that's why I'm running, to change all those things. But anger is just an emotion. We got to get into action mode. So once we process people's real, dissatisfaction with stuff, and just get back to work. Nothing solves the emotional problems we have, the emotional, anger people have with the city than work. Put people to work, man. They get tired, they forget to be angry, and they see the success of their work. I think at the end of the day, that will make us a better city.
So what do you mean by work?
So it means we gotta get people serving on boards. That means we gotta, start something like a weekend lawn mowing club. You get citizens to get out there and help us cut the lawns in some of these parks. Get people involved in that. Get people to talk about how they perceive the city and what they want to do next. I have some ideas. Friday night movies in the summertime. An all-adult female choir. Things like that would bring a level of pride and civic, interaction with people. Skating on the canal in the wintertime. Those are things that we're getting really busy to do. So we got to bring back the St. Patrick's Day parade. Hispanic Week should be the biggest Hispanic festival in New England. It should be a crowning jewel, just like the Feast of the Three Saints, just like the Bread and Roses Festival. It should be the biggest thing, and everyone from the community should feel like they're a part of it, and they should then benefit from it. So those are the things you could be. There's a lot of stuff to do. Trust me, everybody's got 2 or 3 things they think is wrong. We'll put in work to fix those things.
Sounds great. Another question, switching topics. If talk about public safety, I know that you talk a lot about trying to bring more police officers into the force. I'd like you to talk a little bit about that. But also, one of the main initiatives that I think as mayor you would have if you get elected is appointing or hiring a new chief of police. We know that Chief Romero, September 3rd, I believe, is his last date. He's been serving for about 14 years. So I'm interested in knowing what would you be looking for in a new chief of police?
Yeah, I think I was fortunate to be on the search committee that found Chief Romero. And I would look for the same qualities that we have in a chief. Somebody who has a strong background in community policing and doesn't just use it as a catchphrase. I think that someone who is also has been to Quantico, the FBI Academy. I think it would be a great, they do a course at the FBI Academy. That's an important credential piece for me. It's not a deal breaker, but it's an important one to have. And I think somebody who served and had command for a while. And somebody asked me, do you want somebody from the inside or somebody from the outside? I said, you know what, that's the wrong question. The question is, if I gave you $140,000, go find the best chief of police you can find. Now, we have pride too. We want the guy from the inside to be good and maybe, somebody be able to work their way up to be chief. That's great. But we want them to beat everybody else who's good. You can't just be the guy because you're from the inside. But you can't also just be the guy from outside just because you're from outside. For me, again, basic community policing, the FBI Academy at Quantico, and be competitive across the field of a lot of people want the job. The question is, can a lot of people do the job?
Now, you say community policing. For those of us that are tuning in, what does that mean?
That means that you're out at the neighborhood association meetings. It also means that you have an active hotline for people to call. It means that you're solutions-based policing and not reaction-based policing. So you look at the cause of a certain problem and you go after it. ComStat is another piece of that, where you use statistics to try to target crime before crime happens. All these things kind of melt together, but in its core, it was started by, I think, Bratton in New York, and it's, if you see a broken window, you got to fix the broken window, or not. If you don't do that, then other people think, well, no one cares, so let's break more windows. And so that's the core of it. So you got to go at these small things, and I think what the chief has been doing is part of that. But at the end of the day, somebody who's data-driven from the community policing standpoint, out there with people, and making the community feel part of the police force.
What would you say? I know a few years ago there was a big issue about this. I don't know if it's the same now, but there was issues of police officers being more violent than what they should be, with people they were arresting or being extremely rude to members of the public.
Yeah.
Under your administration, if there's issues like that, how would you resolve something like that?
I'll tell you what, I think that across the board, this is not just a police officer thing, across the board, people that work for the city, want to do a good job. So because they want to do a good job, gotta make sure they get training. A lot of people get brought onto the community to work for the city and they don't get the right type of training. For instance, this whole concept of customer service. You go into a situation, and if you're escalating the situation that there's a problem, you create a bigger problem. Also, so you have to make sure people understand the basis of customer service. Thank you, please. Make sure people convey information. I think if you train folks, police officers included, I think that you change that whole dynamic. Again, now part of community policing is that you don't make sure that they don't think that they're away from the community. You got to make sure that they know that they're part of the community. So you give them the training for that, and then you got to hold them accountable. Everybody, absolutely. When you call the city, whether or not it's the police department or the fire department or any other department under their administration, this is what it'll sound like. Hi, my name is Dan. Call the police department. Can I help you? So okay, I'm not the guy you need to talk to, but I'm gonna pass you over to Juan, and Juan's gonna take care of you. Now, if Juan can't take care of you, I want you to call me back. Here's my extension. Again, my name is X, Y, and Z. So that people feel like, hey, this guy's not just passing me off, or this person's not just passing me off. It's going to be the same thing in the water department. It's going to be the same thing in all the departments in the city. When you get a call, you're going to get when you call the city hall, you're going to get a response that you feel like somebody actually cares about what you're doing. When you call city hall, you're going to get a person, and that person's going to respond to you in a way you're going to feel like they heard your issue and they're trying to really help you resolve it. And that goes to the police department too. Listen, we have a young community. We're one of the youngest populations in the state. So the police officers need to handle that situation that way. I used to be a military police officer. I know that when you go into a domestic situation, when you go into a call, your life is on the line. That's not a joke, that's for real. So they're gonna act appropriately to make sure that they stay safe in the process. Now, with the right training and with the right level of expectation set, they're gonna do the right thing. And I know we got good cops on the force that are gonna do that.
I guess, it's an interesting initiative. My question is, how will you get that out to the public? So for example, I remember a couple of years back, I saw right in front of my house a couple of 13-year-olds being put into a paddy wagon because they were out in the reservoir at 9:30 playing with flashlights.
Yeah.
Now, at that time, I didn't feel like, me bringing that issue to anyone, that it would get heard.
Yeah.
And I feel like throughout the community, just in the past, couple of decades, they probably feel like that, not just with the police, but with DPW, different places. They don't think that anything's going to be done with it. So how do you change that mentality?
You got to change it across the board. Again, I'm running because I care. And when I'm the mayor, everyone's going to know that the mayor cares. And that my actions are going to reflect that idea. And when people start knowing that people care, they're going to start to come out. They're going to start giving up that information. The other piece is, when the workers know that the mayor cares, they're going to start acting differently too. But if they think no one cares how you treat people, if they think that they don't care that they leave people to die in voicemail, if they don't think that it's important to react positively to citizens when they're in a domestic situation or a crime situation or an alleged crime situation, I think that's really, they're going to act however they feel appropriate at that time. But when they know that people are watching, that they care, I think people will act differently. The other piece of that is we have to start to collect information around the youth that we do interact with. Again, we're a young community, so I need to know in the crime stats how much of this stuff is being done to people within the age of 17 and 20, and break that stuff down and start looking at that, and then attack those problems in a different way. The core of that problem, the core of youth in our community and crime, is the job situation. At the heart of my youth initiatives are going to be jobs. Because everybody's like, no, you need an after-school program, basketball, late-night basketball, baseball leagues, all these other programs. No. We want kids to have an experience that they go to a place to work, they do a day's work, they get paid for it, they feel good about themselves. And that can start at 16, 17, I think, whenever the work permits are available. And once you instill that in people, people's lives change immensely. But you got to be focused on those things. And I think they're hand in hand. The youth crime, the perceived youth problem with crime, and the answer is right there, just jobs.
So jobs and education, I think is what I heard last.
Yeah, and the piece of that is education through that job process, but and I think that they'll recommit themselves to education.
So Lawrence is 6 square miles, huge poverty rate. It's how do you get jobs here, essentially?
Yeah, you gotta make people feel safe first and foremost. People are gonna come here. It's a zip code thing. No one's gonna want 01841 on their letterhead if they don't feel like there's a sense of pride in this community. And right now there's no sense of pride in this community. The people feel like are downtrodden. They feel like, well, the lists say we're at the bottom, we must be at the bottom. So we got to regain that sense of pride and feel people get back into this. Honestly, once you rebuild that public safety piece as a core, that if you come to Lawrence, you do business in Lawrence, you're going to be safe. That's the first place. And then you got to go out there and sell Lawrence. I've met chemists, I met microbiologists, engineers, single mom nurses, single dad bus drivers. We have great people working in this community, and as a resource, you got to sell the fact that we have great workers here. And there's no one works harder than an immigrant workforce. It's been the case since the turn of the century. This is the case now. People who come to this country looking for opportunity, looking to work hard. So you got to sell that as an asset. The other stuff is really not that sexy, so it's tough because you got to look for industries that have need for the things that we have here in Lawrence. So, for example, we have one of the lowest commercial water rates in the state. Our water rate compared to Boston, compared to Worcester, compared to Holyoke, all those places, is cheaper per gallon for industry than for anything here than it is anywhere else in the state. So, right, that's not really sexy. But I can name you 3 industries that use a lot of water. Medical device companies use a lot of water. Breweries use a lot of water. Plastics and coolants, people who are using a lot of metal fabrication, they're using a lot of water. But I tell you, hey, we're going to cut 5% out of your cost of building your product. Come to Lawrence. Oh, by the way, we have this great workforce. Oh, well, what about the crime? We got it under control. So you got to sell the things that we have so that people will come here. And part of it is, being clear about what those things are and being proud of them. And I think that's how you do it. We complicate things. It's really simple. We have 4 or 5 things that other communities don't have. We got to sell those 4 or 5 things and not think that we're something else. Another weird one, this just happened to be the case. If you want to get solar panels up on your business, you could be up in 6 months in Lawrence and have like a whole photovoltaic array and bring down your electricity costs. So another thing is to look for companies who need a lot of electricity can use the solar panel to cut their costs down. We're not looking for people to come here because it's out of the kindness of their hearts. We want them to come here because their business is going to thrive here, and that's what you do.
I want to segue into education.
Sure.
I think one discussion is definitely we need more businesses in here to create more jobs in the city. How do we keep, this question is like, how do we keep people inside the city? I have a lot of friends either getting married, children, and one of the things they look at, whether they're trying to move back to the area or they're looking at buying a house, is education. Right now, for the past about almost 2 years, the state has taken over the education system. Our superintendent, Jeff Riley, the Eagle Tribune has quoted that the state believes that they're going to be here for another 7 more years. We have a school committee that's essentially defunct. The mayor doesn't attend those school committee meetings, and perhaps he's involved in the discussions, but it just shows that the community is not really involved in what is going on in the building of this new school system. As mayor, how do you tackle it?
Yeah, I see it this way, that the mayor's position is really weird. You have legislative power and you have budgetary powers that allow you to run the city. But the only reason why you get to be mayor is that people trust in you enough to go out and vote for you. And so you have this other thing called the bully pulpit, where you can go and talk to people and get them involved in a way, because they trust you to be their mayor and to run their city, that you can then give advice about other things that maybe don't have to do with the budget. And I think the schools are one of those things in this situation, because we are a test case. It's the first time this ever happened, that the state has taken over under the newest legislation. And a lot of the initiatives of the school turnaround plan are also new, and it's a trial process for those things too. So in that environment, I think that the mayor has a role to do really specific, and it's 3 things. At its core, you have to become an advocate for parents. That means that you go to parents and you say to them, hey, you need to be part of your students' lives, and by the way, I need to hear what you think is going on in the classroom. But the important part of that is getting them to be involved in their students' lives. it makes a total difference in education. So you got to encourage them to do it. You got to model it. That means I would go to PTO meetings. I would recruit for PTO meetings, for PTO organizations, and talk to parents in front of their schools, get them more involved in it, and model it, and then highlight people that are doing it right, because you got to get the parents involved. Right? Then the second part is you got to incentivize teachers and staff people. This one of the initiatives is, people talk about how the teachers are away in the summertime. So if the teachers are away in the summertime, let's do a contest, where if you move the needle in your subject area the most across the district, we're going to reward you on that. So that means if you're in language skills, language arts, or math, or science, and your class or your area of expertise moves the needle the most, does the best change from last year to this year, we're going to give you a week's cottage with a week in Martha's Vineyard. It's about $1,500, $2,000 worth to do.
Mm-hmm.
But the upside is huge, because you get everybody competing for it. Everybody tries to move the needle up. And because everybody's moving the needle up, all the kids benefit. Only costs you $2,000 per subject area.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, it goes to that other core piece of people now understand that someone cares enough to do this initiative. Someone cares enough to think about it, and someone cares enough to reward them for the efforts they do. So you gotta definitely incentivize teachers outside of what already is going on with the plan. You build leverage that way. You're talking to parents getting them involved, showing them that you care there, talking to teachers and staff people getting involved there and showing them you care there. And lastly, this is the best part. This is also actually the best part. I look forward to this more than anything else. And I don't really give myself much thought about, what I'm going to do when I win. So I think that it's motivationally, I always just think about what I need to do to win.
Mm-hmm.
So I focus on what I need to do to win. But this is the one thing I do think about a lot. I'm a kid from the high school, graduated Lawrence, class of '89. And I was a grade school kid from the Leonard and the Kane. And I can't wait to stand in front of a group of kids and explain to them how great they can be, how much smarter they are than we ever were, how the world is really at their grasp, and how they can change all these things, and then really just tell them every day how great they are. And if they hear that from the mayor, how great we are, how great we think they are, I think they'll internalize that. And every day get a chance to say that to them, and then encourage them to compete. Go compete and lose. It's okay, but compete. Compete in robotics, compete in math, compete in social study, academic Olympics, compete on the baseball field, on the football field. I'm going to go to every team. This is not just at Lawrence High, this is at the vocational school. Every team will say, you guys need to be the state champs. That's it. Stop playing around. This is a reality. The city is watching. We need your help. So getting kids and emphasizing to kids how much their work is important to the greatness of our city. I really look forward to doing that. And I think that's a third piece of the school plan for me, given that the state's taking it over. You gotta get parents involved, you gotta show them you care, you gotta get teachers involved in a competitive way to move the needle, show them you care, and then you gotta show kids that are every day they go to school, it means a lot for them to be successful. And I think they'll show that they care.
So, I guess so one question is following up on that. Under how long do you think the state would have to keep control over the school system? If we're doing everything that you say that we're doing, right? We're getting parents involved. We're creating incentives for teachers to become, to think of new ways to reach the students. And we're getting a new level of involvement from the students. At what point does Lawrence start taking care of its own business and not, folks from Boston?
See, I think that accelerates it. If my part is successful, I think that it moves along the turnaround plan. And if the numbers are moving really well, I think the state will leave sooner than they want to. I mean, trust me, they don't want to be here any more than we want them here. That is a reality. Because if they break it while they have it, they have to stay here longer. And the state is not in any situation, in any way to be taking over our schools just willy-nilly. So I'm sure they want to extricate themselves from this as soon as they can, even though they're talking about that 7-year figure. I think they're just covering their base. I really think they want to be out of here as soon as they can. We're going to help them get out of here soon, but that means that we got to show, if we do those things right, and the school committee, because we still elect the school committee, is part of that effort, and and shows that they're equally as invested in moving this thing along, I think they'll be out here sooner. I think 7 years is a long time. I don't think it's going to be 7 years. I think if we do what we're supposed to do, remember, they took it away from us because the previous school board, not the current school board, the previous school board was negligent, including the chair, the mayor. So they took away our power to run our city schools based on the actions of a set of people that were there before, even though there was an election in between and new people came on to fix it. I'm not sure that they took that into account, but they took it away because that group of people were negligent. And I think if we help them move the needle in the turnaround plan and play our part in that, I think they'll see that we are no longer negligent, that we are totally invested in making these things work, and they'll be out of here soon.
Closing up,
Yeah.
I think for people that don't know you, for folks that, I think in this community, I was just talking to someone yesterday, and we're talking about politics in Lawrence, and I'm like, well, a lot of it, sometimes it's not even about platform points. It's about how much confidence they have in the individual. So for those out there that perhaps don't know you, that you haven't been able to reach out to them, tell us why you should be their mayor, and talk to us about how they could get more information, how they could get involved, if they listen to this and they're like, you're the guy.
I'm running so that we can support this community that works hard every day to make Lawrence better. Everywhere in this community, somebody's out there trying to make Lawrence better. A single mom getting her kid to school, a small business trying to run on Essex Street, a large business trying to run on the canals. Every day somebody's trying to make Lawrence better, and I want to help them with that. I'm not running for mayor so that my name can be on the door, so that my name can be on the parking spot, so that people can call me mayor. I have no interest in that. I am running for mayor so that we can work hard together. I'm a workhorse and not a show horse, so people should know that about me. They're gonna see me with my sleeve rolled up, getting into the business of doing the work, and that's why we really need someone like me in City Hall, because politics is one thing, but governing is about us doing it together. And I think when we think about it, our greatest needs is us coming together as a community and deciding these problems. We don't need somebody who thinks they know every answer to every question. That's not what we need. We need somebody who says, I got an idea, why don't we get together to talk about it, and then facilitates that process, but then at the end of the day, has to pull the trigger and make a decision. And that's what my strong suit. I was a military police officer, so I know how to be part of a group discussion and let people do what they need to do, but also do it in an orderly fashion. I got 2 degrees, but I think the biggest education I ever got was, being the manager of the public housing project at the stadium projects. You learn about people, you learn about where policy and people's real lives meet. So I think when you think about all the things that are wrong with our city, the things that need to be fixed, the answer isn't who deserves the position, the answer is who can fix the problems. And I think if you look at my resume, I think you look at my experience, that I'm one of those people. Again, our motto is make Lawrence better. Our website is makelawrencebetter.com. If you want to get a hold of me, my home number is 978-208-1744. My email is danrivera@makelawrencebetter.com. I'm on Twitter, it's drivera01843. Instagram, I think it's danrivera01843, and the whole thing. I'm on Facebook, but so you can get a hold of me. If you Google makelawrencebetter.com.
You're very active, I think, with social media.
It's important. I think people are, it's funny for a while that people thought computers was going to keep us divided, and this whole social media thing has changed that. People are on there all the time, and so we communicate a lot through that. So I think that people go online, if they Google makelawrencebetter.com, they're going to find all the stuff they need to know about me. But more importantly, I'm a kid from this community, and I have the perspective from the bottom, from all the things that we've seen. I've had to walk to school through some of the baddest neighborhoods, and I had to find a home here. I just want to know what that is. I came back from the Army, I know what that feels like to come back to the community. I came back from college, I know what that feels like. So I have a perspective that a lot of us share, and I think it can fix this place.
Well, thank you very much for being here. I think we answered a lot of questions that people might have, and I wish you good luck.
Thank you.